Welcome to another video. In this video, I'll be teaching you how to add force to a rigid body within Unity. So let's get started. So to get started, what you want to do is create a new thing and make a new script. So I have made a script called AddForce. It's currently empty, and what I have just made a basic scene with the plane, a cube, and a sphere that I'll be using later. So once you have made these objects, what you want to do is make the script and connect it up to the cube, which I have already here. So just simply drag it in onto the cube and it should be connected here, and open your script. Once you've made your script, this is what you should see, and we're gonna get started by creating a few variables. So I'm gonna create two public variables, one called RigidBody. This is the one we're gonna modify. I'm gonna call it player, and another public transform. This is the position. This is where we're gonna get the position of our target. So I'm gonna simply call it target transform, and a private vector 3 called target pose, and put a semicolon behind that. Next, what you want to do is get rid of the start method or the class. I keep messing it up. And in this update, what you want to do is first let's just start off by applying some force to this player. So what you want to do is take the rigid body, which is player, and dot. Every time you do a dot in Unity or C#, it's basically going to the next level down. So player, what do you want to do to the player? Dot, and then whatever. So we want to add force, second one down, and let's see what this force takes in. Add force takes in a vector 3 and a force mode. So this is what we're going to be using this for, a vector 3. And for now, we're going to be putting in transform dot up. This, I'll give you an example of this, what this actually is in a minute, but this basically, like, as to the word, it makes the cube or our player goes up. And we want to choose our force mode. So comma, because it's within this, it takes in two arguments, and in between each argument we put a comma. So comma and force mode. So right there, look, it's already highlighted for me. Double click on that. Force mode, what do you want to do to the force mode? Dot, and there's more options. So I want to make, for example, an impulse, and this is doing it so many times every frame, so it's gonna be pretty fast. So let's just save this, go back to Unity, let it compile a bit, and you should see two variables. First, we're gonna connect up the cube, and I'm actually gonna leave the target transform empty for now. So, and let's get started. You see that the cube actually goes up into the sky because we did transform dot up, hence it goes up. And one thing that I forgot is you actually have to connect the rigid body first before you add the script. That's my fault for forgetting it, and I'm gonna move it up there. And let's go back and do something to the target transform. So before we move on to the target transform, I have a few more things I want to show you. Is that the force mode, you can go fiddle that yourself, and it's this transform dot up. So there's two other ones, transform dot forward and transform dot right. And there's no left, if you're asking. There's no left, down, or whatever. There's only up, forward, and right, and I'll show you why in a minute. So let's go up for now, sorry, and we'll run the game, and you'll see that the cube goes up and it changes the Y in the transform position. And so if we go back to Unity and just simply get rid of this, and we can put in a public vector. So public vector 3, and that should show up in the inspector now. And we'll put the target pose there for now. Going back to this, if we saved it, there we go, and it is same as doing transform dot up, as just changing the Y to a 1. So if you see now, it will go straight up, exactly like what it did before. And as for the right and forward, what you want to do is do the same, transform dot forward. And if you guess what this does, It's basically, it takes one of these axes and applies it in that direction. So forward is Z and X is right. So look, forward is the blue one right here, if you look on the top right. And if I do this, it would be the same as transform.forward. So right now, I won't put anything, or it doesn't really matter because right now it's not connected to it. So transform.forward, I run this, and you'll see that it goes in that direction as we predicted. And if we change that to target parse and we just leave it as that, because it's already applying it in the, oh sorry, the Z, I was putting it on the X. The X is in the red axis, like left to right. So we put 1 in the Z and we'll set that to 0, and you can simply run this. You'll see that it does the same thing by going to like in front of it. So I won't show the X because it's basically the exact same thing. And now we'll actually move on to target transform, like with the target. Okay, let's get onto it. And for the second example, I've simply activated the sphere I've set. So I've unticked it before and now I've just ticked it and it's right here. So what you want to do is connect the sphere up to the transform in the cube and go back into your code. So right now, this is what your code should look like. Target transform, and you got target parse, sorry. We actually won't be putting that, oh wait, yeah we will, so we can leave it like that. And in our update, I'm going to be teaching you a formula that's basically getting the direction you want to go towards. So you'll be taking this vector and target parse equals to, so the transform that we're aiming, so the target transform. So target transform minus our own transform, or sorry, target transform dot position minus our own position, so transform dot position, and it is now saved to target parse. And so when we run the game, the cube should theoretically run towards the ball. Let's save this, go back to Unity and run. You'll see that in this case it does. It goes straight towards the ball. So if we move the ball a little further, no matter how further away it is, we'll see that it will always go towards the ball. So let me change the camera view a bit. And if we run, it should drop a bit and then just zoom to the ball. This is the formula if you want to get anything to face its direction basically. And you can also do this into make this and plug it into a quaternion, which I did in another video. I'll be leaving a card in the top right corner of the video. So really, in the game, this isn't really useful when you just press play and it just zooms to a target. Or maybe you want it that way, I don't know. But I'm going to show you how to get inputs and make it that way. I've also made a video on how to get inputs and using them, so I'll be leaving it also on the top right of this video. Going back into a script, in the update method or class, if, and we can get these two. So, well, no, we will just get this one actually. So we'll command X this. If input dot get key down, I'll put it as space. So key code dot space. You get all of this once you watch my other tutorial. So let me paste this in and move that in front of the if. What it's doing is basically always getting the position that we want to go, but only going to it if we press down space. So let's see if that's the case. Go back to Unity and press play. It should do nothing and just drop to the floor. And if you press space once, if you go to that direction, and if I spam space, it will keep going, adding force into that same direction. If I stop, it will fall. If I spam it, it will keep adding force into that direction. So it will follow. Right now it's building up too much momentum, so it seems like it's zooming everywhere. So we can pause that, and we can use this to make some really interesting mechanics. So we don't have to make it follow wherever, like the target parse. We can just simply use transform dot up. And if you want to make like a spaceship or like Flappy Bird clone, you can use this. So add an impulse of force every time you press down. So down, space, 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 space. You can see that it's going up a little bit. That's because we haven't added any values yet. So right now it's just adding basically 1 every time we press it. So we can add a power. So public variable, public int called power. Save this, and we can times this, basically times the 1 by whatever we want. So I'll put in power, and I'll set a default on the power to 5. Make it look better. 5. Save it and go back to Unity. And in the inspector, you can see the power. Right now, it should be set to 5 as default. I don't know why it's not saving it, but if we change this to 5 and run the game, you should see that the cube should jump like further up now, because we're adding that. So we're timesing the 1 as I showed you before, the y 1, and timesing it by 5. So it's going up 5 each time we press space. And you see now it's going up really fast. You can use this to make some rocket. So you can create a variable that cancels every time you hold down space, make a simple spaceship game. And same goes for transform.forward and right. So you can use this for when you hold down W, it adds force to the forward direction. So forward, and if you run the game, it should just simply boom, go forward, or just add force in that direction. Okay, if I press space now and you won't, it's because the space, this cube has its axis. So right now, if I go in the scene, you'll see that the blue axis is actually pointing down. So if we rotate it up like that, go back to the game, and if I press space, you'll see that it goes forward again, because it's adding only into that direction. So yeah, there are a lot more things you can fiddle with the rigid body. So if you go into cube and rigid body, there's mass, drag, gravity, constraints, etc. So all the other ones you don't need to care about, so it's too complicated for you to understand, or you can try finding out what they are on your own. But so there's interpolation, collision detection, and all the other stuff. So the main ones that I would suggest you follow on is gravity. You can tick this, and or untick it, mass and drag. These 3 are like the main ones you want to modify. And then there's also the constraints. So I've did a bit modification here. So I've also frozen the Z position and all the rotations. So if I press now, even though I am applying force in the Z position, when I press down space, if you can hear it, it's not moving because it's frozen. So if I untick this, since it has all the rotations frozen, if I go press, you should see that it just slides across it very smoothly. If you worry about how to fix that there, I'll just fix it. So there's no more rotation, it's just a smooth transition across the plane. So I'll do it again. Don't freeze the position that you want to change, and press the add force, and you'll add force in that direction. To freeze all the rotations is to prevent it from rolling like before. So if I unfreeze all of this and run the game, you'll see the problem we had before where it rolled forward, and now if you press dead, it won't work, because as I showed you before, the blue axis is now pointing down. We're adding force directly into the plane, so it won't work. So once we freeze all the axis and go back, you should see now it's just smoothly transitioning across the plane. That's basically gonna be it for this video. In this video, I taught you how to make your player or whatever object face a direction it wants to face. Just use this formula. The target that you want to face, position, minus your own position. And I've also told you how to add force to a rigid body that you have or you want to connect it up with. So, and I've also taught you how to make a quick power change within the Unity editor, so you don't have to keep coming back and forth to change the power. I hope you enjoyed and this has helped you in some way, and I'll see you next time. Bye.